Welcome back to Black Girl Couch Reviews. I'm your host, Christina. We are back for another recap and review of Netflix's Stranger Things Season 3, Episode 3, The Case of the Missing Lifeguard. This episode was directed by Sean Levy and written by William Bridges. I really enjoyed this episode a lot more than last episode. I gave it a 9.4 out of 10. I really love the new addition of Robin. She is quickly becoming one of my favorite characters. I love her. I love that we're getting more scenes of Lucas's sister Erica, because you know I love me some Erica. I'm hoping she teams up with one of our main characters, because I would love to see that. And I really like some of how the way they've broken up the storylines and the characters. Some of them are a little typically, the Nancy, and I think that's the one I'm struggling with the most, is the Nancy Jonathan storyline. But everyone else's storylines I really like this season. I love the pairing up between Max and Eleven, although it's not the strongest pairing for me. I think that still is the mall team, Robin, as well as why am I blanking on his name right now? Robin, that's like the only one I remember. Dustin and Steve. So I'm gonna go ahead and break this up by the groups, because that's kind of best, because there's a lot of jumping around, which again I like. It's taking me a second to get used to it, just because I'm so used to the structure of the last two seasons. But before I even get into this episode, we got some feedback from Cheyenne. Hi, girl. I'm so happy that you're into Stranger Things and that we can talk about this. I think Lamia has already binge watched the whole fucking thing. So she'll just be listening to our thoughts, because she had to go ahead and binge the whole damn thing. Some of us take a few days. But yeah, and then also quick housekeeping very quickly before I get to Cheyenne's feedback. Krypton, it's still on. I have not given up on Krypton whatsoever. I thought the second season would be on the DC Universe app, and it is not, which is very frustrating. So I have to buy the episodes, because I do not subscribe to that thing called cable. So I will be getting to that. I'm hoping today. I know I'm probably going to go watch another episode of Stranger Things, but then I might hit pause real quick. I mean, it depends on how. It's really hard not to hit the next episode, because it's like right there. But yeah, I might get to season 4. And I think actually Cheyenne sent some feedback for season 4, or for episode 4. So I think, yeah, we're definitely doing 4. And then we'll see about getting Krypton going. I don't think anything else I'm missing, because I already did Swamp Thing. I finished Good Omens. I did not look at my own calendar, so I'll need to take a peek and see what I'm missing. I think it's on my block. That's going to be a slow burn. Just letting you guys know, for all my block people who are waiting for that one. That's going to be a slow burn. It's going to be a slow burn. It's a drama. So I still want to do it, because of course it's supporting supporting different cultures and races, and I'm here for that. But at the same time, it's drama. So I am going to get to that, but I really want to get to Dark, and I think I'm probably going to finish Stranger Things way quicker than what I have listed on my schedule. I have to look at it again. I think I was trying to stretch it out over the next 3 weeks, but I doubt I will not finish it by the end of this week. So that gives me room for another show, and I really want to watch Dark. I don't know what it's about, but everyone keeps saying it's another type of thing like Stranger Things, and of course that intrigues me. And it seems to be hella popular out there, so I need to know what's going on. What am I missing? That's a Netflix show that's been out for a while that I just never got a chance to look at, but now I'm thoroughly intrigued. So there's that. So, yeah, definitely doing Krypton. That's the little bit of housekeeping. I probably will be doing Dark. So, on to Cheyenne's feedback. Hey, Christina. Hey, girl. I guess what? I just finished binge watching Stranger Things seasons 1 and 2, and I'm happy to be able to contribute my thoughts on the show. Girl, you just now coming? You late to the party? Oh, you said as usual, late to the party. Well, welcome. I'm not gonna shade you. Welcome. I could be late to dark, so we welcome you. It's hard for me to start a show at the very beginning. I'd heard great things about the show, and I have Netflix, so it's not like I didn't have an opportunity to watch. I just haven't until now, and boy, have I been missing out. Love this show. I love my new babies, Mike, Lucas, Will, Dustin, 11, and now Max. Since you already did a review for the first 2 episodes of season 3, I will just combine my thoughts on the first 2 episodes and talk about episode 3. Starting season 3 was sad times for me. Seeing my babies all grown up after just watching season 1 and 2, I definitely wasn't ready. Mike and Elle making out, I wasn't ready. No, I was not ready either. I'm with Hopper, hell no with those two. That is way too fast at their age. What are they supposed to be, 13 or 14? I really need that clarified. I know it's not more than 14. So they're just there. Dang, I wish I remembered their ages. The talk was needed. The scene when he's trying to talk to them and they are basically disrespecting Hopper, I was definitely saying hell to no to that. Definitely. I couldn't believe Mike was being a disrespectful shit. So yes, Hopper threatening him in the truck was well deserved. I also wasn't aware until episode 2 that Elle still wasn't allowed to go out and socialize. Yeah. I guess because she went to the dance at the end of season 2, I forgot the conversation Hopper had with the doctor to wait about a year for the dust to settle before letting her go out. But I'm with you, couldn't she at least get out a little bit? She was doing that in season 1 without anyone really noticing her. Hopper and Joyce are cute. Poor Joyce still isn't ready for another relationship. That was pretty traumatic seeing Bob being killed like that. And then they had to show us again this episode like we needed it. Also, with everything she's been through with Will and the monster from the Upside Down, I can understand her needing to be by herself. Also, it looks like she's trying to move out of that town. I don't blame her for wanting to do that, especially when she learns that Will still has a connection to the Upside Down world. Exactly. We get to that in episode 3. Dustin and Steve's relationship has continued, which is cute too. They have this nice brother, little brother thing going on. Robin is a great addition to the cast. I like her. She doesn't take shit from Steve, calls him out on his bullshit. I think that's the type of girl he needs. Someone to push him. Yeah, the whole Russian angle is interesting. I knew they would that would come back into play. They talked about the Russians in the previous season. It's interesting to see the dynamic of the group change a bit. Like, they started out as this really tight group of boys that spent 10 hours in Mike's basement playing D&D to now they are branching out into new things with girls and hanging out with other people like Steve. I do think it was messed up of Mike to prioritize being with Elle over welcoming his friend back. That has turned into an unhealthy relationship, so I'm glad that they show Elle starting to branch out from Mike. I like the Elle and Max friendship blossoming. Elle needed that. Being attached to the hip with Mike and not at least exploring friendships with the others in the group was strange to me. Just because the world couldn't know she existed, yet didn't mean she could establish stronger relationships with the others. Yeah, she seems to not be as close to Lucas or Dustin or Will, despite what they both been in the Upside Down, but she's mostly connected just to Mike. And now she's finally found a friend in Max. Yes, they were a bit heavy-handed with the hashtag feminism stuff. We don't need a man, all that stuff, but I also think it was the mindset up at that point in time. Women were getting tired of being treated like second-class citizens during that era. They resented the way society said and treated them. So feminism was really strong in the 80s. More women were entering the workforce and not wanting to be told that they were supposed to only be stay-at-home wives / moms. Nancy's job is a good indicator of the sexist attitude held by men. They shut up and go get my coffee. I'm not too upset about because she is an intern or newbie, so I believe that happens no matter who you are. They turn you into an errand / boy or girl. But the sexist part is the fucked up part for me. They are a bunch of male chauvinistic pigs. Pretty much. We get more of that in this episode. LOL, I wasn't as happy about Billy's possible demise as you were after episode 1. I just see Billy as a kid that was abused by his asshole of a father and starting to adopt those same patterns of behaviors himself. I saw him more as an angry teenager, rebelling more than anything else. Yes, he's being a douchebag, but you have these cougar moms knowing better and playing into it. Yeah, Mrs. Wheeler. Yeah, I get his father was a bully, so he now is having those same characteristics, but that isn't really, I mean, he called a kid a lard ass in front of everyone. To me, when you're bullying children, that I can't be down for you. Yeah, I don't blame him for Mrs. Wheeler's behavior. No, she was slutting up and I was trashing her for it. Especially when she's talking about, I just wanted you to know, it was about me. And bitch, you was just pussy. Stop it. Why are you in here like you are something? And like I said, I was trashing her for the fact that she don't talk to her husband. Even if men are supposed to be treating you, or they think you the housewife, blah, 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 it would make more sense to me. At least I could have a balanced argument for her actions if I had ever seen her approach her husband and be like, let's do this. I'm unhappy in this relationship. I'm unsatisfied. I want more. Like it went from that to lusting after some teenage kid half your age and doing all you can to get his attention, and then when you got his attention, more than ready to hop on that dick, and then at the last minute understood that you really couldn't hurt your it was more about your children, because you would have left him. And I mean, I get it. Women felt they could not leave their husbands back in the day. I get the whole mindset, but you got to still account for your actions. That's why I'm kind of like thrown off with Nancy's story, and I think you're about to go into that in a little bit. So I'll get there after I hear what you have to say. But yeah, I don't know. Billy's an interesting character to continue to explore. I'm glad that the villainous role has been assigned to him because he plays it so well, but he also plays the struggling, what you're saying, that he's got a lot of baggage with him, being abused. So he plays both roles really well, and I'm glad we're getting to see that. I was just happy. I mean, I wasn't sad that he was dead if he was to die. I think we can learn a lot from this character. I think it's a good character study. It doesn't excuse his behavior, and of course he can be redeemed. He's clearly not dead yet, so they can redeem him in a way that's different than Steve. But I also think that it's up to people to stop cycles. I mean, I've got the same thing just on a personal level. Like, I got a brother who was abused, thus he now abuses other women, and him having nothing but 4 sisters and a mother that was abused, he has a more understanding of the pain than anything, and yet he continued the pattern. So it's not like I can now excuse him, because I was there too, and I watched where everyone else's paths led, and at some point you had to make a decision yourself. Like, I understand that to move on, and now I get that some people are not strong enough to make those decisions, but at the same time you have to take an accountability for only yourself, and you have to find the strength to do that. I don't know, it's a deep conversation to be had, and it's Stranger Things, so but I feel like this storyline is opening that discussion. So, I mean, just the scene where we get from his character, it'll be intriguing to see. However, at that moment in time when he when he died, I thought he died in episode 1, I was just like, adios, motherfucker. Alright, moving on to Nancy and Jonathan's relationship has taken a weird turn. What happened to Jonathan? What happened to the Jonathan that was like, screw the norm, be different? He was so supportive and sensitive to Nancy in the first 2 seasons. Now he's turning into the thing he swore he wasn't and couldn't stand. He's all wimpy and afraid of being fired, so he's turned into a yes man. So disappointing. I'm hoping it's temporary because I like the old Jonathan with Nancy, not this boring ass wimpy version. Yeah, I really don't know what this is the weakest element of the show to me. I am not invested whatsoever in Nancy or Jonathan's whole deal. She, we get there what happens with them this episode. It's just frustrating as it is weird that these 2 characters that were like, fuck the norm, I'm not gonna turn into my mother and live in a cul-de-sac, and he was the rebel that wasn't going to wasn't gonna fall in line. And not even after a struggle we even saw, they immediately fell within society. Like, I still don't understand why neither one of them would say, let's get the fuck out of this town. Let's go be more like they were into the guy that they went and saw at his house. They should both be in New York trying, and then struggling, then coming back to, we didn't even get to see that to explain why they're both still there. He's grown as hell. Will's half grown as hell. He's got the mom. They all need to get the fuck out of town, and it looks like the mom's thinking about it. So I just don't understand why they're putting themselves in this situation. It does not feel authentic to the characters we've been introduced to. So that's what it makes their scenes 10 times more unenjoyable to me. The exploding rats was gross as hell. I'm thinking this is like a version of the invasions of the body snatchers. These slimy things are getting into people, and the plan is to infect the town. Before it just killed the people it came across, I'm guessing the new plan is to build an army and take over that way. And it looks like you're about to go into episode 3, so I'll save that for after I'm finished with my recap. So definitely some good points, especially about the exploding rats, because I wasn't really getting it. But after last episode, when I saw the thing, it looks like the smoke monster needs a type of like, he might need organic matter to turn into what he needs. Like, he's not physically in this world. He's more like the way he was last season, and he needs something, human tissue, or tissue, so to speak, to be able to assimilate itself. Maybe I'm off on that, but that's what it seems to me. So that's interesting. That's what I think may be going on with the rats, because he came out of the shadows last episode, and it felt like, ew. I don't even want to look at it again because it was gross. Like, the effects this season is so gross. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't need that. So we start this episode with, what was it, Max and Elle in her room. They're dancing, singing, basically doing girls just want to have fun stuff. She comes across Ralph Macchio, and immediately is like, me likey, Elle likies. And Max is kind of like, do you know who he is? He's from the Karate Kid. And of course, Elle has not been exposed to anything except what Mike likes. So yeah, she's very sheltered still. Max is looking at her like, girl, you've been sheltered for too long. And 11 starts to have sad face over the fact that Mike is her ex-boyfriend. And somehow, some way, in the middle of that argument, Lucas lost his girl for the 6th time as well. Even though we didn't hear her say, I dump you too, it's just implied. You know, girls stick with girls and boys stick with boys. And that's where we leave the game. Because the girls are wondering what the boys are doing. And Max says they're probably crying and waiting to beg us back. And don't worry, we're going to get them back. Like, this is a game we play. And Max that is, states that she would love to hear what they're saying right now. And of course, Elle is like, yeah, I have superpowers. She spies on the boys, and they are doing typical boy stuff, which is blaming, they're the victims. Lucas is trying to get Mike, who is eating his heartbreak away, saying, I don't understand this species. They just don't make no sense. They're both in their feelings, him and Lucas. Poor Will is still trying to set up this D&D game. And they're still talking about how the females are hard to understand. Elle is relaying this all back to Max, like, what? And disgusting Mike, he burps and he's like, you could still smell the nacho. And Lucas says that he's gearing up for a beat. And I'm like, what? And then everybody's like, no, don't do it. And it's this loud ass fart. And 11 takes her head thing off, like, I cannot believe. Max is like, what? And she just starts cracking up. Yeah, the male species is not very, poetic. So then, a very drunk, very drunk, Hop comes home. And he hears the music playing, and he's like,
enough is enough! I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane!
But as he opens the door, it is Max and Elle reading magazines on the floor. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And he's like, Elle is like, Max is gonna spend the night. Is that okay? And he's like, yeah, that's good. That's fine. And he says, does your mom know? And Max is like, yeah. Is there something we can help you with, sir? And he's like, no. I'm gonna get out of your hair. And then he's got this triumph as he gets on his recliner, grabs some snacks and turns on the TV. Like, yes, finally, she has found a thing called a friend and not a boyfriend. So he's having a good night, despite the fact that Joyce has stood him up. The next morning, Will. I guess we'll start with Will and the boys with their story, because that's where we leave that whole thing. And, oh no, wait. Because they all start branching off from this point. Before that, with Max and 11, they play spin the bottle on who they want to spy on next. Which is, this definitely Max influence. But hey, why not have powers and not have fun with it? So they play this game, and it first pops on Mr. Wheeler, and they both look at each other and say, boring. What if Mr. Wheeler got some shit going on we ain't never known about? Maybe he's a Russian spy. And we get them spin again, and it lands on Billy, and Max tries to tell her, hey, Billy and women, if you see anything like that, just get the fuck out of there. Elle tracks down Billy, and she sees that he's leaning over someone, telling them it'll be over soon. We don't see what he's seeing, but he senses her in the force and looks straight at her, and it freaks Elle out. And that's when we go to the intro. So we're gonna start with, didn't I say we were gonna start with Will? No, I'm gonna, because they ended last and I like theirs the most. I'm gonna start with Max and 11. Max and 11 are intrigued about what happened to Billy, so they decide to follow up on that. They go to his house, and they discover, which I was like, oh, he moved out. So this is he's definitely out of high school. For some reason, I don't know why I thought he was still in high school. Obviously, Steve is working at the mall. He's no longer in high school. So they go to his house and they start to look around. They don't find anything, but they also don't find him. And Max opens one of the drawers and there's nothing but like porn magazines. And she's like, ew, gag me with a spoon. Elle goes into his bedroom and she's like, look, I don't see anything out of place here. Max like, let's just go. But then Elle seems to follow up on her senses and goes into the bathroom, looks into the tub, and there's a whole bunch of ice bags in there. And Max, who always has an answer for everything, says that he works out a lot. He probably uses it for his muscles. I mean, makes total sense. Until they turn around, there's blood on the sink. And they investigate further in the trash bin. They find Heather's Lifeguard bag and a very bloody whistle. They then go to the pool to check up on Heather and Billy. Well, they already know Billy ain't been in the work. No one seems to care about that. And they ask about whose bag this belongs to. They said it's Heather. She bailed on us today. That, of course, looks even more suspicious. So Elle goes to look at the picture because they both say, well, we want to turn this into her. Because the guy says that you can leave it with me. And Max says we're just good Samaritans. Because, of course, 11 starts to talk about how she thinks she's missing. She covers for her. Elle finds her picture. And they are going to attempt to find her. They go in the shower room. Max turns on all of the shower heads. Elle gets a pair of goggles and puts some duct tape over them and makes her way to the upside down world, wherever she be at. Not the upside down, but you know what I mean. And she sees Heather in a bathtub saying, help me. And I thought we were going to get a whole entire season without seeing Elle scream in this little realm, but we are over O. She screams, can't help her, and Max is like, what did you see? And Elle doesn't say anything.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Then they go to, she says she saw a red door. So then they track down this red door on their bikes in the rain, and they go to Heather's house. Elle just straight up opens the door. She was looking badass when she did. And she walks in, and there is the whole entire family. Heather's parents, I didn't catch their names, and Billy, they're all eating dinner. She's like, you must not have heard us knock over the storm. Max, that is, the smart one out of the bunch, who can cover up for Elle's just blank stare of, I know you did something wrong. And the dad's like, who is this dripping all over my floor? He says, this is Maxine, my sister. But you should have already known that was wrong. He never calls her his sister. And the parents are like, oh, okay, why are you here? Max says, well, you guys didn't come into work, so we were worried. Heather comes out with some cookies, and she's like, oh, Billy says that Heather was sick today, so he decided to take care of her at the parents' house, but she's feeling much better now, and that Maxine can get ghost. Elle is giving Billy the eyes of death.
Liar, whore, and you know it.
And Billy is looking back at her like, bitch, do I know you? And they leave. Of course, Elle looks very confused because she knows something is not right about what's going on there. And we promptly see exactly what she means, because the mom is feeling a little, she knocks her wine over, and the dad's a straight up asshole. All this very subtle, talk of the time of how men treated women. I'm loving that. I am. Again, like I said before, this scene didn't feel heavy-handed because he's like, maybe if you stop drinking all that wine. you would be fine. Maybe she's drinking because she's unhappy, you know, because you treat her like an asshole. She says maybe she needs to go lie down, and he says, yeah, because of the wine. No, it's actually chloroform, you motherfucker, because she passes out in the living room, and he does have the decency to be concerned, but Billy's just ever so casually putting chloroform on the tablecloth and handing it over to Heather, who is, I guess, possessed. So that's what the smoke monster thing. Dang, what is it called? I know it's got a name. It's not Demigorgon, I know that much. And it's not Smoke Monster. I need Will to say it. But he gets him to, or she chloroforms her dad. And so Elle was completely and totally right. Then, and that pretty much wraps up their story, actually. Then we get to, I'm just going to get them out of the way now, Jonathan and Nancy. She presents her story in front of the men, and they pretty much laugh her out of the room. Keep calling her Nancy Drew. As she leaves, Jonathan, he still complains every time she opens the door saying light. Like, Jonathan, get the fuck over it. Jesus. And he tells her that, you know, you knew this was gonna fucking happen. She's still thinking she can actually do something to placate these motherfuckers. Talking about, they say they need proof. Let's go get proof. Let's get the rat and bring it to them. Get it looked at by a vet. And Jonathan's not really on her side about this, but she's like, fine, don't go with me. Give me the keys. And he's like, oh, fine, I'm gonna go with you. He's reluctantly supportive. They go to Doris's house, and Nancy just goes in, and Jonathan, like a little bitch, is like, Nancy, we're just getting out. She even makes relevant points, because he's like, she's not home. She's like, she's 80 years old and it's pouring rain outside. Where else is she going to be? And she opens the door because she says she might have fallen. She's 80 years old. And Jonathan and Nancy discover Doris in the basement eating fertilizer, which is disgusting. But at first he was trying to say her story was stupid. I was like, fuck you, Jonathan. I really don't like your character this season. Moving on from them, we get to Joyce and Hopper. Hopper is still in his field. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to say this. It's going to be rude. But there is nothing attractive about Hopper. Even shipping him with Joy, I mean, he's very a man of that time. And it's like, I love Hop. Don't get me wrong. I will always love Hop. But first and foremost, I did not see you put deodorant on. Secondly, ew, that scene in the shower when he was putting the water in his, I didn't see you brush your teeth either. He's putting the water in his mouth, and then he gets out of the shower. And I was like, oh man, he's still half wet. Like, ugh. And then he's just walking around. Like, the whole point of a shower is you dry off, you know, put your smell goods on, then put your clothes on, then walk around. I don't know. You're just getting yourself dirty again. Then he puts on these long johns that I just did not need to see. And he starts immediately smoking. I was like, oh, that's just gross. It's really gross. Joy shows up, and of course he's like, oh, okay, so you stand me up. And she completely disregards that. And she says that you need to see this. Shows him the demagnetation and how that's because he's like, I don't understand, why is this interesting? And she tells him that this happened at my house, this happened at the store. So I went to Scott's house. He's like, Scott who? And she's like, yeah, Scott, I forgot his last name again, but the science teacher, and how he built an AC and all these science terms and proved that something's going on. He is still in his feelings. Like, you know what? I ain't got shit to say to you, because she's like, we need to go over to the lab and figure out what's going on. And he's like, no, that's not it. He goes in his bedroom, with a curtain on it. I'm sorry, guy. It's been a year. Put some type of feminine touch. It's just gross. He is getting dressed and he's telling her how she's making up something to excuse herself from the fact that she is scared to go on a date or move on. And he keeps saying Joyce over and over again, but she has left the conversation and went in his shed, grabbed some tools, because she plans on breaking into the lab if he ain't going to. And of course, he's putting his sheriff uniform on, and he's like, fuck, you're not doing that. And of course, Joyce is Joyce. She's like, of course I'm doing that. So they go to Hawkins' lab. Joyce is assaulted by memories of Bob being murdered and eaten by one of the Demogorgons. And we didn't need that. And Hop is like, you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. You sure? No, I'm fine. At the same time, though, Hop, of course she's not fine. They go and investigate. He says, look, they sealed it all in. And she says, I must be going crazy. He doesn't say she's going crazy. He says, I almost shot someone the other day because their dog ran up on me too quick, and I thought it was one of those things. So we're experiencing this thing called PTSD, which your son is as well. And I get it. After my daughter died, I had to get out of there. So you feel the need to escape. And he says that he's been on top of this thing because he wants her to feel safe. He wants her and her family to feel safe here so that they don't leave. Because he knows that she has been in contact with a guy about putting her house up for sale. She said, he asked, does the kids know? And she's like, no. And he says he gets it, but he wants her to stay. Because that's how he ended up in this shitty ass town. And they hear a noise as they're having this little heart-to-heart. And they investigate, and it's that super soldier guy who gives Hop a lot of kidney shots that he and his chronic smoking would not have been able to come back from. I'm sorry. And it's slight obesity. Hey, it is what it is. He's playing it for the role. I get it. And that mustache, though, ooh, it got huge. It feels really huge. But that's what he did. He went in, that made me want to gag, is when he opened the refrigerator and immediately started drinking some milk. Then he took the pills and threw them across the room. I was like, oh God, this whole montage is so unattractive. But again, the super soldier is I'm surprised Hop is still swinging. He tries to lay a hand on the guy, but everything misses, and he just continues to take kidney shots until he takes a nice big old fat right to the face and gets knocked the fuck out. Then he leaves. Of course, this is when Joyce comes upon Hopper knocked the fuck out, but she is able to see the license plate on the motorcycle. And that's where we leave those two for the episode. Then we get into the boys' story. Do we want to get to the boy? Yeah, no, because we'll get to Steve, Dustin, and Robin. Robin's still trying to figure out the code from Russian now that it's been decoded into the phrases. She's trying to make sense of them when Erica is ringing the bell, and she's like, can I try the peanut chocolate chip today? And Robin's like, no, you are abusing the policy of samples. That's all you do. You come here and sample. You don't buy anything. And she's like, where is the sailor guy? Steve is with Dustin in the bushes on a stakeout to find Russian operatives. They find one guy. Well, first Steve is distracted by the girl that he was trying to mac on, is talking to a dude that never even got off the bench in high school, where Dustin tells him that you need to stop being worried about that chick when you have the perfect girl in front of you. And he's like, not Robin. I don't like Robin. She's not my type. Besides, she's still in high school. And Dustin's like, you need to stop looking for girls that are popular because that's a high school trope. You're an adult now. Look for someone that you actually like, bond with, understands you. Robin's the perfect girl for that, and you're missing out. And he's like, dude, you got Phoebe, or Susie, who is the equivalent of Phoebe Cates because you followed my advice. So I'm the person that gives advice. You're the person that just listens. You don't give me advice. So it's a very big brother, little brother moment. And that's when they spy a guy with a duffel bag and automatically think that he's a Russian spy. And of course, my first thought was just maybe he's going to the gym. And following him, that's exactly where the guy goes. I love the one scene where he looked behind them and he pretended to be on a payphone and Steve pretended to be looking in a store window. Thought that was cute. And then he's, of course, the Richard Simmons of his time. And he starts getting the girls to dance in the gym. And this very much attracts Steve and Dustin's attention for quite a while Robin has been decoding the damn code. After she takes a delivery from a Lynx driver, realizes that Silver Lake is reference to the company, the delivery company. And then as Dustin and Steve come in, she figures out the rest of the clues, that it's related to a shoe store and some other things. And she tells them that she broke the code. They then go on a mission on top the stakeout on the roof and investigate what's going on. They do see heavily military people guarding a shipment coming in with a whole bunch of boxes. They don't know what it is, but as Steve and Dustin are arguing over the binoculars, they make a noise and attract their attention, and they barely fucking get away. But Robin's like, well, you wanted Russian spies, we got Russian spies. So I love their whole little interaction. Love to see where that's gonna go. They seem to be getting to the meat of it all. And then we go to the boys, Will, Mike, and Lucas. After the boys have had a binge night, Will awakes them in his purple Will the Wise cape and starts seriously acting like a wizard to play D&D, and they need to save the village people. He's trying to give them a rallying speech, but Lucas is like, can I shower first? Because you know black people all about that shower. At least I feel like it. Then they start playing the game. They're playing with Will, but it's very half-hearted. You know, their mind's on other things. And the phone rings and he says it's a distraction, don't answer it. But of course they run and Mike thinks it's 11 and it's not 11. He's like, it's a fucking telemarketer. And Lucas is like, maybe we should call them instead. And he's like, is that allowed? Like, should we call them? Don't we have to wait for them to call us? And Will's like, you know what? Fuck y'all. Fuck this game. Fuck this life. They both try to come back to the table and say, you know, I'm sorry. We'll play the game. We want to play. And he's like, yeah, I can read between the lines. You don't. He pushes past Lucas and Mike follows him out, says that he's sorry. And Will's like, no, you're not. And Mike makes a point here. Like, what did you expect, that we were never going to have girls? Like, first he says, you know, it's not my fault you don't like girls. Now, this is something that a lot of people have been saying in the fandom for a while, that Will probably is gay. I have concluded this a while ago as well, particularly his very hero worship of Mike. Just, I don't know why I've always gotten that. And he's so sensitive. He's so freaking sensitive. That's why he's my favorite, because in his scene in this episode after this, and to me, he's the strongest actor. Like, 11 does a really great job, but I think Will nails it out of the park with his whole storyline and what has happened to him, what he's been through, struggling with his identity that, you know, a lot of people are just not seeing him struggle with it, maybe except his mother. But yeah, he makes that statement to him, and he immediately, kind of gets silent, and he's like, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant, but what did you think, that we were never gonna get girlfriends or have other friends? Because Will brings up, like, where's Dustin? Like, you don't know and you don't care, and neither does Dustin, and I don't blame him. And that's when Mike says, we were not going to be in our basement for the rest of our lives for 12 hours playing D&D. We were going to grow up and move on. And that's when Will says, I guess I am kind of stupid, because I thought that's exactly what we were going to do. Then we proceed to see, they're just like, well, don't leave, Jesus. And he goes home. We get Mike and Lucas, who really are truly his friends, go to his house in the rain themselves to apologize. And again, I'm kind of on the fence with this, because as hard as it was to see Will's breakdown, it was kind of needed. Yes, they were kind of neglecting him, but then they tried to they're trying to be the friends, but they just have other things going on. And it doesn't mean that they're not friends. It just doesn't mean they're not up each other's ass all the time. That they have lives, that they're going to have lives that don't involve them being up each other's ass. So, yeah, I thought it was still big of them that they would still go to his house and apologize. But then the scene in the treehouse, or not the treehouse, but you know what I mean. His fort. He's in there. He's, looking at a comic, and he's stuck. Really, he's stuck in this, in this childhood, in this dream, in this fantasy, because that's where he feels safest. That's where he feels most sure of himself. And he starts to look at pictures of, and then they had the flashback memories too of them playing D&D in the basement from the first season, and how they had Ghostbusters, and oh my god, I was bawling my eyes out on this scene. It was too much, and the actor was just, he had me. Oh my gosh, him crying, breaking down, saying stupid, so stupid, and then taking the bat and beating down his fort was so fucking heartbreaking. Just, it was traumatizing to me. And he feels in the Force when Billy is looking at Elle as she leaves, it's the monster recalling, like, don't I know you, bitch? Yeah, I do know your ass. Like, you're the one that shut the gate on me. So that does not look good for Elle. That looks very, very, very bad for Elle. Because he looked like he got a vendetta to settle with her. Even though Elle's a badass in her own right, but she needs to squad. She's got to squad up. And right now it looks like she's just being paranoid. And then we get Will feeling that, and instead of him trying to shake it off, it feels like Will has become a new man. Because Lucas and Mike roll up like, Will, what happened here? And he says he's back. And I was like, oh shit. So very interesting turn. It looks like Will is going to take a little bit more of a front seat this season, and going against his fear, which is going to be awesome. I am worried about them leaving. I don't want them to leave at all. That would be really sad, but I don't know what's going to happen with that. Joyce did not seem like she changed her mind, and maybe by the end of the season she will, though. Of course they do. They have to stay together. So that's about it for for episode 3. So we'll get into Cheyenne's feedback. Yeah, that's my feedback music. Well, my feedback for episode 3 is the following. Poor Will, he appears to be stuck in season 1 while everyone else is growing up and moving forward. He wants things to stay the same, and they can't. I agree with you. I'm wondering why he's still not in counseling, because he's clearly stuck and not able to move on like everyone else is doing. What Mike said was harsh but true. They are growing up and are teenagers now. Their interests will naturally expand and they won't want to spend 10 hours in Mike's basement playing D&D. I'm worried about Will. He's feeling isolated from his friends and this demon is back messing with him again. I'm glad he at least told Lucas and Mike that the thing was back and not kept it to himself. The scene in his little castle thing was heartbreaking. He's having such a hard time. It appears as long as that thing exists, it will be a part of Will in some way. Hopper and Joyce scene was funny. She is so oblivious right now. Joyce has latched on to another mystery, so she's totally distracted with that. Her radar is up, and after everything she's been through, she doesn't take anything for granted that it may be nothing. Nope, now she has to look for herself to ensure that it's nothing. She has no trust when anything out of the ordinary happens. She now becomes suspicious. Don't blame her. Hopper needs to take a chill pill. I know he likes Joyce, but clearly she's not ready, and now that she's distracted with this new mystery, he definitely should just know it's not the right time. Exactly. He's feeling pushy. I did find it interesting that he can stand there in a towel when she came barging into his house, and she didn't see anything wrong with that picture, so a part of her is already comfortable around Hopper. He's her security blanket. She's just not aware of her own feelings for Hopper at this point. It reminds me of Barry and Iris in season 1. Barry is aware of his feelings, but Iris is oblivious to her own feelings. Yes, the creep factor is real with Billy and Heather and her family scene. Yep, I'm with the body snatcher theme now. I continue to like Elle and Max's friend relationship. Elle is coming into her own with branching out and befriending more than just Mike. I like the Robin, Dustin, Steve dynamic in this episode. Them doing a stakeout was funny. The guy that they thought was a Russian spy but ends up being the aerobics instructor was hilarious. This was classic 80s stuff. It's always funny to me what kids got away with back in the day of no cell phones. Kids can be out all night and the parents don't think twice about it. Ain't that the truth? You just say you're over someone else's house and that's all you needed to say. Nobody checks on anyone else. There's no way in hell I can do that with my kids. Well, that's it for episode 3. I'm about to watch episode 4 and I will provide my feedback. I will do that after each episode because I'm not sure when you plan on doing your podcast for each episode, and I want to provide my feedback to you. Your Stranger Things podcast seems so lonely with no one interacting with you about it, so I got your back. At least for this show. You crack me up as usual. I look forward to hearing your episode 3 feedback. Yeah, my feedback is very lonely. It's so lonely, so lonely. So if you want to send that feedback, you can send it to blackgirlcouch@gmail.com. Like I said, I'll probably do an episode 4 today, and then I will pause there and try to get to Krypton in the next few days, so I at least can be on track for that, and then get at least on my block back out. That might be after Stranger Things 5 and 6. So, yeah, send that feedback to blackgirlcouch@gmail.com. My social medias will be below, so you can comment, rate, subscribe on to that. You can find this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify at Black Girl Couch Reviews. Until next time.